What if the world's largest rainforest wasn't always an untouched wilderness, but the home of millions of people living in massive cities that vanished without a trace? It sounds impossible. Yet scientists now believe that beneath the endless green canopy lies the forgotten remains of an advanced civilization, so large it could change human history forever. And the most shocking part? It may have disappeared without leaving a single written word behind. Because survival, not intelligence, decides who gets remembered. Imagine standing in the Amazon nearly 2,000 years ago. The air's thick with humidity. Birds scream from the treetops. Mist rises from rivers that stretch farther than the eye can see. But instead of endless forest, you see wide roads, massive earthworks, villages connected across the landscape, children laughing, farmers harvesting crops, ceremonies filling giant plazas with thousands of people. This wasn't supposed to exist. For centuries, explorers believed the Amazon could never support large civilizations. The soil seemed too poor, the jungle too dangerous, the rivers too unpredictable. Researchers believed only small tribes could survive here. But survival has always forced humans to become far more creative than anyone expects. And that changes everything. Scientists discovered something hidden beneath the trees. Using powerful laser technology called LiDAR, researchers were able to remove the forest digitally from the landscape. What appeared underneath shocked the scientific world. Entire networks of ancient cities, perfectly straight roads stretching for kilometers, huge ceremonial platforms, canals, reservoirs, massive defensive walls. Archaeologists found evidence that these settlements were carefully planned, not randomly built. Someone designed this world. Someone understood engineering long before Europeans ever arrived. But that wasn't the strangest part. Researchers believe many of these cities were connected like a giant web. Instead of isolated villages, people may have lived in organized communities, linked through trade, farming, and shared beliefs. Imagine traveling for days through shaded roads lined with crops instead of wild jungle. Imagine hearing drums echo between distant settlements. Imagine knowing thousands of people depended on your survival. This wasn't chaos, it was civilization. Yet history almost forgot it existed. Why? Because forests can erase almost everything. Anthropologists suggest that survival in the Amazon demanded cooperation, unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. Predators hunted silently. Floods destroyed fields overnight. Diseases spread through warm rivers. Food changed with every season. In this environment, selfishness wasn't strength. Cooperation was. Humans evolved to trust one another because being alone often meant dying alone. Fear didn't destroy civilization, it created it. Then something even stranger happened. Scientists discovered enormous patches of rich black soil called terra preta. Natural rainforest soil is surprisingly poor for farming, but this black earth is incredibly fertile. Researchers believe ancient people created it themselves by mixing charcoal, food waste, bones, and organic material over generations. They engineered the soil. They transformed one of Earth's hardest environments into farmland capable of feeding huge populations. This wasn't luck, it was ancient technology, and some of that soil remains fertile even today, thousands of years later. What researchers discovered next changed everything. The forests themselves may not be entirely natural. Scientists found evidence that ancient Amazonians deliberately planted useful trees across enormous areas. Brazil nut trees, fruit trees, palm species, medicinal plants. Instead of living against nature, they redesigned nature. The rainforest may actually be part human creation. Imagine that. The world's greatest wilderness might also be humanity's largest forgotten garden. But that wasn't the worst part. If millions lived here, where did they all go? For centuries, people imagined endless wars or mysterious disasters. The truth may be even more heartbreaking. Researchers believe European diseases spread through the Americas long before many explorers ever reached these communities. Smallpox, measles, influenza. Diseases invisible to the eye? Entire populations may have collapsed before outsiders even realized they existed. Civilizations disappeared almost silently. Their cities slowly surrendered to vines. Roads vanished beneath roots. Temples became hills. Within generations, the forest swallowed nearly everything. Nature doesn't simply destroy, it patiently hides. Archaeologists found giant geometric earthworks buried beneath trees. Perfect circles, massive squares, enormous ditches. Some stretch hundreds of meters across. Building them required planning, leadership, and thousands of workers. This challenges one of history's oldest assumptions. That complexity only belonged to places like Egypt or Mesopotamia. The Amazon tells another story. Human intelligence grows wherever survival demands it. The real horror had only just begun, because when memories disappear, people disappear too. Without writing, later generations had little evidence these societies ever existed. Stories faded, languages vanished, names were forgotten, entire cultures became invisible. Imagine living your entire life building something extraordinary, only for history to pretend you never existed. Scientists discovered traces of sophisticated water management systems. Reservoirs collected rainwater. Canals controlled floods. Raised fields protected crops during wet seasons. Researchers believe these innovations helped people survive one of Earth's most unpredictable climates. Again, survival shaped invention. Necessity became technology. Fear became engineering. The human brain adapted long before modern science understood why. Anthropologists suggest humans share a psychological pattern that hasn't changed in thousands of years. When danger increases, people organize, they cooperate, they innovate. We often imagine civilization began because life became easy. History shows the opposite. Civilization grows because life becomes difficult. Pressure creates progress. Fear creates creativity. The Amazon may be one of humanity's greatest examples of that truth. Then something even stranger happened. Every new discovery raises even more questions. How many cities remain hidden? How many languages disappeared forever? How many inventions were lost before anyone could record them? Scientists estimate enormous parts of the Amazon remain unexplored beneath dense forest. Each new LiDAR scan reveals structures nobody expected. Every discovery rewrites another chapter of human history, and perhaps the biggest discovery hasn't been made yet. Imagine being one of the final survivors. The roads are empty, the marketplace is silent. Smoke no longer rises above distant villages. The jungle slowly creeps over abandoned homes. Birdsong replaces human voices. Within decades, your civilization becomes a memory. Within centuries, even the memory disappears. Only the forest remains, waiting. Today, satellites, lasers, and archaeology are uncovering what time tried to erase. Researchers continue to find evidence that ancient Amazonians were skilled engineers, farmers, builders, and environmental managers whose achievements rival many better-known civilizations. Every discovery reminds us how incomplete history can be. Not because people failed, but because nature is incredibly good at hiding the past. And maybe that's the most important lesson. We like to believe we are completely different from ancient humans. Smarter, more advanced, more civilized, but our brains are still driven by the same instincts. We still build communities when danger appears. We still search for security. We still adapt faster than we realize. If you had been born inside those forgotten Amazon cities, you would have planted trees for future generations. You would have trusted your neighbors. You would have feared disease, floods, and hunger. You would have fought to protect your family. You would have made the same choices they did, because history isn't a story about people who were different from us. It's a story about people who were exactly like us. The only difference is that the forest remembered their silence longer than the world remembered their names.